Hey there, welcome to another review here at OnWheelsTV. This was promised since 3 or 4 days ago, I don't know. This is the most recent content in terms of cars released for rFactor 2. Is an official release from Studio 397. This is the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup mod, so the 911 GT3 Cup series, the 911 GT3 Cup car is now available on rFactor 2. This car was lacking in the sim because officially this car is present in Assetto Corsa, also officially on iRacing, also officially on Race Room. So it was kind of highly expected on rFactor 2. And now arrives also with an official license, and after a week where Studio 397 also brought to the sim the long-awaited Nordschleife track, which includes several layouts, one being the Nürburgring Grand Prix, where you are watching the 911 GT3 Cup car on track. So this was, I would say, one of the most perfect weeks in rFactor 2 history, and definitely the most productive week since it's being handled or managed or developed by Studio 397. So the fans awaited for this car. It arrived as a DLC, so it means you have to buy it. Don't worry, it's an excellent purchase, as we will try to explain to you during this review video. You also probably, if you follow OnWheelsTV, you also probably noticed that in our last videos we introduced some changes in our approach to content, also in terms of the footage, and you will see some changes also in this video with me driving the car and showing that in the camera in the final part of this video. This car is tricky. Yeah, this car is tricky to drive, and for those of you that doubt it, here's an example. Yeah, lost it there. Yeah. So this was just to show you guys. I could have hidden this so that I show you only perfect laps, but I want to bring to your attention that this is probably the most complex car to drive on rFactor 2 so far. It's not the most powerful. In fact, if you compare all the Porsche cars officially licensed in the sim, this is the less powerful of the three. It's less powerful than the GT3, the GT3 car. This is the GT3 Cup, but it's the GT3 spec car is different. Lots of more aero, more power, and this one doesn't have that much power, and it's also less powerful than the 911 RSR, the GTE car that you know so well as part of the official endurance pack DLC from Studio 397 also. So this is basically a road car then prepared for racing, but it keeps most of its key features present in the road car. The same brake system, the same aerodynamics, and it's a bit of a mix between a race car and a road car present in this 911 GT3 Cup for competition. So you will definitely need to adjust several things you do on track to suit the driving you should have in this car. You should adjust your braking distances. You should adjust the way you brake. Trail braking becomes key in this car because the brakes don't work in the same manner of for instance the two other Porsche cars I mentioned. You will notice that when you are on track, if you brake in the same way that you would with the GT3 or with the GTE car, you will probably think that this car doesn't brake well. It does brake well, but you just need to change the way you brake. Also, in terms of the power delivery, this car has more height to the ground compared with the GT3 and with the GTE. So you must count on a different behavior from the chassis and from the suspension in this car. It will dance a lot more. It will balance a lot more on track, and you need to adjust to all that. As I always do when testing these cars, I went on track first with the default setup. Then I tried to make some changes, basically in terms of the anti-roll bar, both in front and rear. Then also with the tire pressures and with the camber, and immediately I noticed a lot of differences in terms of the driving. Then I also asked a good friend of mine to provide me with a setup. He had already tested the car, so he developed a setup that I tested, and I also enjoyed the car after using a proper setup. But in both situations, I noticed that the first times I drove the car with those two setups, mine and my friends, I noticed that in the first time I drove it, I spotted some differences, but I still was lacking performance in the car. But I continued performing laps, and the next day I noticed that I was a lot better. I also noticed that you never get good performance from this car in the first, I would say, 2 laps. So you will probably start seeing some changes in terms of your performance and in terms of the handling of the car, more efficient, more obedient, starting from the 3rd lap. Anyway, it's tricky on braking, it's tricky on acceleration, especially when you are still in turn, accelerating still in turn on exit. You must definitely manage the way you balance the brakes and the accelerator in this car, and it's always ready to react like this. Yeah, like here, it's always ready to react to you. It easily turns to you. So it's a beast on track that you need to properly manage. As you can see, in every lap you can never turn in the car and then truly rely on its handling. You have to always readjust, you have to always compensate, because the car is always showing you some rough reactions on track. And this is what, in my opinion, I don't want here, at least in this content, in this review, I don't want to compare this car with all the other Porsche 911 officially released in other sims that I mentioned earlier in the video. But I would say that this is the most complex of them all to drive. The one where the handling makes more sense compared to reality, and for that matter, in my opinion, this is the best 911 GT3 Cup car available for sim racing at this moment. I would definitely say that, because I truly enjoy the performance and the handling of this car. I also like it very much in the other sims. I like it very much on iRacing. I like it very much on Race Room. I would like it more also on Assetto Corsa if Assetto Corsa had the physics performance it should have. But here is where I think this car is more demanding, more immersive, and more challenging to drive. And that's what, for me, those are 3 key ingredients to involve me in driving a car in sim racing, and this car has them all. So those of you that are not at least a little bit familiar with the handling of a race car, well, you will have some problems adjusting and taking the best out of this car. I was not yet still able to take the best out of this car, and at least in this track I've already performed like maybe 50 laps. It takes some time, it takes some some work, some adjusting. You need to adjust definitely your driving. Your senses must be always alert, because this is a demanding beast to handle on track, and an excellent release once again from the guys at Studio 397. Yeah, I lost it there. I was very much involved in a battle with that orange car, but then I lost the rear, and this is something that happens so frequently. Well, you will notice once on track. We get now to the final part of the video, so I'm showing you everything at the same time. I'm taking the opportunity to also show you the track, because this is another laser scanned track from Studio 397. Fabulous track. Everything that Studio 397 has been bringing to the sim has been perfect. And now we get to the final part of the video, where you can see me, there. Yeah, I'm that guy with no hair. Sorry for the t-shirt. That t-shirt had already more tissue than it currently has, but I feel so comfortable with it driving. So please forgive me for my comment. I'm just kidding with you guys. And I'm trying to show you here so that you can see that it's so that you can see that it's actually me driving, and then because I want you to pay attention to the driving of the car and to the to my moving with the wheel, to see that I'm always having to react to the handling of the car. Yeah, like right here, I lost it completely, but that was my mistake. Went too wide, touched a little bit off the curb to the grass, and that caused that brutal reaction from the car. But it's always very demanding on track. It's always forcing you to commit to your driving. But it's probably the car where also you can feel the most the reactions, although you need to try to set up your force feedback to work as efficiently as possible, because sometimes the car has some tough reactions. You suffer a little bit when you step the curbs with this car, especially if you are using a direct drive wheel, where you feel much more all that the car does on track and everything the car steps on. So in some of the curbs, those tall ones, especially in that final chicane where we are getting there now, especially in this chicane here, when you touch those curbs there, they are really tall, and especially the second one. I didn't clip it now, but I did clip on it almost every lap, and it's very, very rough on you, on your arms and on your hands, and yeah, it's really tough with this car. And there's not a very efficient manner for you to adjust the suspension to better absorb that, because it's always the car always has that reaction where it jumps when it touches the curb, and when it lands, it doesn't land and stay there. It just continues up and down for a bit. The suspension has a longer course than in a GTE or in a GT3 car, so it does make it rough on you when you are touching those curbs, especially the tall ones. But it's always bad. It's also bad when you touch those curbs where you have sort of lines there in the middle, and you feel that from the wheel in a direct drive wheel. Yeah, you struggle with it. But anyway, this is a proper Porsche 911 Cup car to drive on rFactor 2. It's a car that you have to buy as a DLC. It costs 4.99 euros. It will be the cheapest 911 GT3 Cup car you'll ever buy, because as you know, in real life they cost a bit more. But anyway, you will be making proper use of it, because I think that this is, as I mentioned earlier, I think this is the most complete and therefore the best simulation currently available of this car. If to this you add the physics of the sim, if to this you add the proper performance from the tire model currently available on rFactor 2, well, you are into a great driving sensation every time you go on track with this car. Yeah, I lost it the rear there, and this is my way to say goodbye to you guys. Hope you enjoyed this, hope you get the car, and hope to see you soon. Bye bye.